Norn comes outside and apologizes for taking his time. Catching his breath, the boy quickly realizes that they're supposed to train again, as part of their routine. His father, the dark dragon Volgs, is a mighty beast, while his mother is the majestic holy dragon, Horiera. Both dragons are happy to confirm that they'll be training. Now these two are the strongest dragons known to exist in this era, while Norn was nothing more than a sacrificial offering from the humans. Volgs grabs the little boy and zooms him across the skies for training, while he's screaming for his life. No matter what species they are, they're his parents. Hovering over the skies, Volgs questions how many years it has been since he became a part of the island. With his tiny fingers, the boy recalls that it's been exactly 12 years. Realizing that it's finally time for their training to take another step, this mad dragon literally drops its child from the sky. I mean, look at Norn's face here. The little guy's soul is screaming. His father tells him that from tomorrow on, he'll live on his own in the world of humans, which is quite the surprising turn of events. Norn is perplexed and can't even digest the thought of living amongst the humans. Keep in mind that this dude is still falling from the sky. He doesn't get why he's being punished to live amongst the humans when he didn't even try leaving the island once. Besides that, all he's good at is typical housework and sewing, like the red scarf he made. There's also the traumatic training he went through with his father, acquiring some of the breath attacks of dragons. Then he learned many things from his wise mother, who taught him dragonic language magic too. Bro is falling down and complaining about his upcoming new life. He still thinks he's not ready for the things he's learned. Norn plummets the ground with a large quake, which makes me feel like this dude goes through it every day. As he picks himself up from the ground, he can't help but confess how humans are so strong and capable they can severely damage even the dragons. That's why, despite being the son of mighty dragons, he's afraid of going into a territory where humans with monstrous abilities exist. He whines and begs his father to let him stay on the island for a while longer, but the dark dragon is ruthless in his calling and roars him shut. His mere roar incinerates the ground and cuts past the hill right next to Norn, making him realize that he nearly fucked up. Volgs reasons with the human child, claiming how humankind eventually allows their offsprings to blossom into adulthood by becoming independent from their parents. With that in mind, the dragon believes that Norn will be alright navigating by himself in the human world. But Norn can't bellow or digest the thought of becoming independent by himself. It's not like he has a choice though, since his parents have already figured out what's best for him. The dragons decide to help him prepare for his journey. They want to offer him a valuable object that they stole from God a very long time ago. It's called the Otherworldly Bag, and it basically has infinite storage capabilities. Volgs also gives him a mighty sword that was so strong it hurt him in a battle a long time ago. The weapon is named the Excalibur, the mightiest of all swords. With his luggage prepared, Norn still can't stomach the fact that he has to leave like this. But his dragon parents seem to be okay with his absence. He tries to see if they'll let him stay, and it turns out both of them are just unwilling, leaving this poor boy on his own. Norn thinks for a moment and tells them to wait for a moment. He comes back with a beautiful red scarf that he made for his parents, as a means of showing them respect for the way they have treated him. He doesn't have anything else to offer besides a cute smile, thanking the dragons for raising him and looking after him all these years. His gift paired with the boy's sincere expression is enough to even make the dragons start bawling in tears. They're equally as grateful for their son. Be that as it may, Volg still thinks it's not enough as kindness won't cut it against the humans. Humankind is mightier than the dragons, as they boast strength, tenacity, cunningness, and fear. Basically all of the things that would make Norn wet his pants. The dragons desire for him to become a man capable of challenging the evil humans as well as keeping in line the wicked dragons. That's the kind of strength they hope he masters, in order to become a man of great capabilities. But this little needlestick is intimidated by those expectations, if anything. He vows to do his best no matter how hard it may be. As he's leaving on his own, his parents see him off from afar, wishing him well despite their tears. As he's journeying ahead, Volgs regrets that he's worried about Norn's lack of confidence in his abilities. While his mother wonders if they've been too strict in disciplining, Norn is flocking around while the dragons are wondering if he'll be able to survive on his own. Volgs expresses his own worries for his child, but let's be honest, why would they even send him if they were so worried about it? Anyway, Norn is torn apart but ultimately accepts his fate. Despite his fears, he descends down a cliff and decides to enter the human world. Traversing in the forest, he remembers the many times he has fended off dangerous monsters here, but now he has to leave everything. The little boy is scared for his life, especially when one monster stomps its foot from behind, startling him. Turns out it's not just one but a bunch of nasty-looking behemoths, all ready to feast on the little boy. Norn is reduced to a pathetic sight and makes a run for his life. He dodges a column of fire and remembers how he's been attacked by the same creatures an endless amount of times. Yet, these dangerous monsters were the closest thing he knew as his friends, even if they're trying to kill him. Norn is perplexed to find the monsters all gathered up today. He reaches a sudden realization as a battle ox takes a swing from behind. Its powerful swing is blocked with a single hand of this supremely powerful human. Norn is delighted that his so-called friends came to see him off and say goodbyes. He's grateful for them while the monsters are left stunned from his inhuman strength. Norn apologizes and decides to give everyone a farewell hug. This hug is unlike anything one would wish for, as Norn uses telekinesis to tear the ground apart through his command of dragon language magic. Activating the Earth Dragon's arm, Norn enters into battle. The scene skips over to his parents. Both dragons entrust in his strength and believe that the strength of their child will become so powerful that Norn will surpass even the mightiest of dragons. The boy has equipped his tiny arms with stronger earth gauntlets. Now he can reach all of the monsters for a happy hug, embracing them while he's afraid of the challenges he'll have to endure. The battle ox reaches for his head and grabs him, which Norn interprets as an act of love and affection. It's really sad how these monsters are trying to kill him, and yet, he thinks of them as his friends. In his excitement, he hugs them with his giant ass arms and knocks them all out. Norn realizes that he might have gone a little overboard with his strength, causing them to crash out. After that, he continues his walk. But then he notices the trembling and scared children of the monsters, and goes up to comfort them. But to those tiny little children, they view him as a monster, especially since he's just defeated so many of them, including their family. The raging ox dashes forth, threatening that the dangerous human might hurt its children. Norn senses its outrage and realizes what's causing the issue. He sees the children no differently from himself, as he too was treasured by the dragons. This little guy sparks a brilliant idea. He thinks the best way to take care of his fears of living alone is to simply have someone else protect him and care for him. So now, Norn is thinking about finding himself a really strong human, someone powerful enough to look after him. Thinking of his new scheme, Norn is fully confident that he can actually pull it off, that he can actually make everything work in his favor. The confused monster stares at him walking away. Norn flocks in the forest, believing that he should go ahead and search for the strongest and most capable human in the entire world and see how they stack up to him. The goal of becoming a great man like his parents wanted stays the top priority, but nobody is stopping him from reaching that goal in his own way. Pondering about his goal, the boy comes to a final decision. With a smile carved across his face, he submits that he'll find someone even stronger than his dragonic parents and take shelter under them. Norn searches far and deep for the human world. For him, traveling to the human world won't take more than half a day. So Norn starts pedaling his feet on water, running like the Flash and excited to meet the strongest human in the world. Let's talk about human civilization now. There, a pink-haired warrior has just powerfully slain a dragon in cold blood. Going full speed across the ocean, Norn finally steps on human land. Seeing humans bustling in the city around him, Norn excitedly claims his mark in the human world. He's still fixed on his goal, devoted to finding a human even more powerful than his parents. Using them, Norn will become even stronger than before. However, a despairing observation sets in. He just doesn't know what kind of person could be classified as a powerful or strong human. After all, there's so many around them. Now Norn thinks that whatever person he picks must have a really strong and solid physique from their battles. But it still doesn't explain where he's going to go searching for these guys. Just then, a shopkeeper granny calls out for the boy and asks if he's running errands. Norn nervously declines and explains that he's trying to look for a strong human. The granny is impressed with the boy's boldness to say that out in the open. Since she has a caring heart, she's ready to toss him a bunch of mouth-watering bread for 3 silver coins. Norn is salivating and immediately makes the purchase. Since he doesn't know anything about the currency of the country, this little guy whips out so much gold from his bag that it nearly gives the old woman a heart attack. His possession of gold coins catches the eyes of the people surrounding them. The stupid Norn ends up buying tons and tons of stuff, thinking that he's cutting himself the sale of his life. He thinks that the humans are being kind when in reality, the guy has been getting ripped off by everyone. Norn bumps into a dude and apologizes for doing so. Turns out these are a bunch of lunatics who can't glance over the fact Norn's carrying a ton of food. They want to have a piece of the pie. The boy waits and judges the situation. He senses their dark energy and forms distrust with them, realizing that he's made a mistake. Seeing that they're also muscular, Norn is afraid that they're too strong for him to handle. But suddenly, this makes him happy in a different way. Remember how he decided to use muscular guys as a reference for strong humans? Well, now this idiot is thinking that these two are the people he might be looking for, so he naively tries to hand them some of the bread. Fortunately, the grain makes him sneeze so hard that it completely sends these assholes flying in the air. That's just how powerful this kid is. Both of them are utterly crushed and start regretting ever approaching the kid. They wonder if the boy used magic and threatened to take his life with their swords. Sensing distrust, Norn shrinks and feels afraid of their incoming attacks. Then the boy remembered how his father always advised him to protect himself. Norn mustered his courage to cast an attack with his hands. A few seconds later, the landscape is filled with blocks of ice. He went overkill on a bunch of punks. Norn inspects his hands, which have also turned to frost. As for the goons in front of them, they're as good as frozen in ice. Unfortunately, Norn's food was also wasted in the process. Seeing his powers, the pink-haired warrior emerges from the scene. It turns out that Norn is the only person unaffected by the ice. The ice attack wasn't something he did. Rather, it was the work of the warrior. With a flick of her fingers, the ice melts, freeing the runts. They're still as persistent as ever, and go as far as to attack the warrior with her back turned. The warrior swiftly reacts with a warning slash, holding the blade in front of him. She didn't even attack, and yet the ground froze behind her. The runts are realizing that they messed with the wrong person. Turns out they fucked around with the Dragon Slayer Princess Tiltu Silva Yuli only to find out the hard way. Just hearing her name is enough to make them panic. Lady Tiltu is the actual definition of a strong human. That's the impression Norn formed shortly after encountering her. Both men apologize for their acts, while she thinks that it was a close encounter. Norn is indebted to the woman and bows in respect because she saved her life. But Tiltu is a little confused and claims that the real people in danger were the bullies as well as the people of the city. It seems like she knows that the attack Norn was about to pull off could have threatened the entire city. She realizes that the young boy is unaware of his own powers and takes him for a weird one. Just then, another warrior arrives looking for her. Bash is surprised that she rescued a little boy and thinks that she's a softie. Norn curiously asks about their identity, perplexing the blue-haired warrior. Bash explains that they're the Great Silver-Winged Knights, specifically known as the Dragon Slayers. These two monsters are probably the same dragon hunters who injured Norn's father. Tiltu gets dragged lazily by Bash as they bid the little boy farewell. However, Norn has already acquired his targets, so he's not letting them go so easily. He begs for them to wait. Bash wonders if the kid is infatuated with Tiltu, but Norn merely has a strange request to ask. It's funny because Bash thinks the scene makes it seem like he's trying to propose to her. With what little words he can command, the boy continues. Bash is still hilariously thinking this is a proposal and believes he's about to get rejected hard. Norn, on the other hand, releases his confession, which is a request for Tiltu to raise him. The confession utterly shocks Tiltu and leaves Bash paralyzed in place. As this is happening, a man is secretly eavesdropping on their conversation, and his beastly scales suggest that he might be a dragon or a monster in disguise. The odd request makes Bash break into laughter. He ridicules the little boy's request and helps him out. Bash plays the cool guy and explains how men are supposed to take other people in and shelter for them, instead of being the ones protected. After all, women love a strong man. That's what this clown thinks as he's living in his own bubble. Tiltu wonders how true that is. In any case, Bash tells the kid to become stronger and reminds him that the only way he can become closer to them is if he can also become a dragon hunter. That would be the ultimate way of proving his strength. Hearing those cold words, Norn stands uncertain. It's as if he's been struck by lightning, but it also helps him become acquainted with the nature of humans. Now Norn has learned a valuable lesson, that helping isn't enough when it comes to humans. In order to show them that he's really capable of their time, he has to become even stronger than Tiltu, and he will do so by becoming a dragon hunter. Now that he knows this, Norn finds himself flustered, embarrassed for his bold and straightforward, careless approach. He's at a loss for words in front of the two knights. Norn strongly expresses that he will become even stronger and return to them. But then, suddenly, a strong wave of dark energy comes from out of nowhere, entrapping them all. Norn recognizes it immediately. It's the scent of a dragon. One monster creeps up from behind, right when Tiltu isn't aware. Norn comes out to protect her by placing himself in danger, allowing Tiltu the time needed to cast a powerful barrier, binding them in a cubical shape that levitates in the air. Unfortunately, Norn's sword as well as his prized ancient storage device is left behind without notice. The barrier floats up in the air, gaining a topical view of the city. Tiltu is still casting her spell, infuriated that their assailant used a cowardly surprise attack on them. Her top priority is to protect the safety of the city. She checks on Norn, who seems to be doing all right. More importantly, the young boy is dazzled by this human's command of brilliant magic. She's able to create air wall barriers out of the blue, signifying that she's truly a remarkable human. As for the ugly monster who dared to attack them, he was certain that his scheme would work to his benefit. Norn observes that this guy is a humanoid possessing a dragon's tail. This ugly composition can only be done by the illusionary dragon, who reveals its true form shortly afterwards. Since they're trapped in a dimensional barrier, the green dragon becomes whole and roars. Bash protects the boy and is pleasantly shocked that the dragon is capable of speaking a human's language. Bash protects the kid and helps him escape the young dragon's wrath. He's able to dodge the dragon's whip and counters with energy blasts of his own, just focusing on surviving. The dragon mocks him for running around and introduces himself properly. Lord Rival is a big-shot descendant of a legendary dragon. Bash basically pulls a "who asked" and questions what it's doing in this place. Surrounded by an air of dark red energy, Lord Rival playfully mocks them and claims that he's here to get his revenge. His main target is actually Tiltu, who is responsible for slaying many of the dragon's allies in cold blood. The dragon weeps for its departed comrades, preparing a powerful dragon breath. It releases the beam in order to destroy the cruel human knights who killed innocent dragons without sparing a second thought. Tiltu beautifully dodges the beam and replies that his so-called innocent comrades had taken the lives of many humans, which is why she was requested to slay them in the first place. She was just serving the cycle that they initiated. Norn is carefully observing this battle, finally gaining an understanding of what it means to be a part of the human-dragon conflict. But still, he struggles with the fact that humans are supposed to be stronger than dragons. Norn wonders if that was the main reason Lord Rival targeted the innocent people in the city, hoping for a chaotic battle and maximizing harm. The little guy decides to act on his own by leaping away from Bash's shoulder. It seems like he's filled with a righteous reason to stand against the dragons, despite being raised among their kind. With determined eyes, Norn is filled with a new purpose. Lord Rival shows his hypocrisy by calling humans an inferior kind compared to the dragons. He thinks their blood doesn't equal the sacrifices of his own kind. In the same breath, this cruel dragon admits that they were responsible for vanquishing many human countries. He thinks the dragons are merciful for sparing children, and that warriors like Tiltu should be grateful of the fact. The Dragon Slayer princess casts an icy response with her sword, expressing her anger towards the idiotic dragon who fails to see the holes in its own ambitions. Lord Rival lunges forth to finish her off, while Tiltu stands there, happy to now accept that he's nothing more than a selfish dragon, giving her a reason to act. The Dragon Slayer princess severs the beast a dozen times with her blade, and with that, every part of its body begins to pull apart. Tiltu doesn't feel guilty, not one bit, for defeating the representation of a dragonic scumbag. With the battle ending in a single strike, Bash is impressed by the skills of the Dragon Slayer princess. He uses this as a lesson for Norn to understand the true strength of the dragon hunters. However, it seems like the battle isn't quite over. Even after its head is severed, the bastard dragon is still alive. Its head is still insistent on killing them, which makes Bash realize that they've yet to target the creature's core. They tell Norn to get behind, but what's strange is that Norn is ahead of them. The blue-haired knight tries to stop him, reminding him to stay within reason. But Norn's fury and anger is so loud that his mere aura is enough to send Bash away. Filled with rage, he stands before the head of the dragon, who is still shouting its insults. Suddenly, terror sets into the creature's eyes as he finally grapples with the boy's true identity. Norn places his fingers near the monster, showing a taste of his power. The beastly dragon succumbs to the fear, realizing that he's confronting the same power as the strongest dragon among even the dragon clan itself. It's the power of the dark dragon coursing through the body of the child. The dragon realizes that this boy shares a connection to the dragons and requests his strength. After all, with him on his side, they'll safely be able to kill the knights. But Norn, instead of showing the dragon a gruesome death, simply embraces its face. It seems like things are going well for a moment, until Norn slaps him with a really solid strike, shocking both Tiltu and Bash with his inhuman strength. Even the dragon is shocked as the strike left a mark on his face. Confused and unable to speak, the dragon questions why he's doing this. Norn answers that he finds it wrong to bully those who are weak. His sense of righteousness tells him that he should always protect the ones who are weaker than them. Of course, it sounds gibberish to the murderous dragon. Norn raises his hand to prepare a final attack, believing that he has no room for forgiveness when the dragon came here specifically targeting the defenseless human children as well as the elderly. Casting a magical spell, Norn thinks that it's suitable for Lord Rival to suffer the judgment of his ancestor for his actions. The head of the dragon begs for mercy, knowing that it won't survive in that place. But it's already too late. Norn is already casing dragon language magic. A beam of light strikes down as the dragon's soul is sucked out of the space. He's tossed up in the skies, and there in the aerial prison, he sees the other stone dragons. They merely grab him and take him away, while the dragon is left questioning what kind of magic the boy used. There's just no way a normal human is allowed to or even capable of using dragon language magic, so it doesn't make any sense. In his parting thoughts, Lord Rival lets out a warning, stating that the dragon god would never allow things to happen this way. Norn is witnessing the scene from the land, hoping that his ancestor will discipline Rival for good. Tiltu, on the other hand, is left completely stunned, not knowing what she just saw. Norn tries to explain what he just did, and suddenly realizes that this could be a test from the Dragon Knight. Tiltu mentions that he used some kind of strange magic beyond her understanding. Want to know the best part? His magic completely tore apart her dimensional cube. Bash is screaming for his life while the other two are hovering in the air. They're free-falling, and there's no doubt a fall from this distance will prove to be lethal. Norn also realizes that this is troublesome, but Tiltu shields the boy instead of focusing on the other Dragon Knight. They reach close to the land, and just a moment before impact, the Dragon Slayer princess casts her magic to stop them, breaking their moment. Bash thinks it's all good, but this idiot wasn't expecting her to release the spell a second later, making him kiss the ground. Dude ends up breaking his nose while the other two are unscathed. Norn realizes that he was the one responsible for causing damage and apologizes for his mistake. Apparently, a lady accidentally throws a bucket of water on him. Norn is glad that Tiltu didn't get drenched like he did. The Dragon Slayer princess glances at him, before accepting the fact that she was caught off guard from what happened. Then there's the strange magic this boy exhibited, a kind of magic that she never knew about. Bash, being the numbskull he is, reminds Norn that men aren't supposed to hug other people. Even Bash is confused about the identity of the boy. The Dragon Slayer princess shoves him away and decides to ask Norn about his name. She observes him with a cold stare, which Bash confirms that the Dragon Slayer princess has actually taken an interest in the boy. 1,000 questions pop up inside the boy's head. He doesn't get what he did that was so phenomenal that it met her expectations. After all, he's only been fucking up by not meeting her expectations. He wonders if she's pitying him, but he's okay with that, as long as it allows him to grow closer to someone who is actually strong. Following that train of thought, Norn comes up with another idea to execute against the human in front of him. He tells her that he desires to become a dragon hunter even stronger than Lady Tiltu, the mighty Dragon Slayer princess. Bash has had enough with the boy's antics and calls him out for being ridiculous. Tiltu is on a whole different level and is capable of massacring the true dragons. Hearing this, Norn expresses his shock. Bash confirms that dragons are ranked in different tiers based on their strengths. When it comes to the lesser dragons, they're at the bottom of the hierarchy. They're considered a subspecies of the dragons, and take shape somewhat resembling them. Then comes the tier of a young dragon, the monster they just faced, Lord Rival. This level of dragon is powerful enough to wipe out entire troops of soldiers with their strength. The third one on the list of the dragons are the fully mature grown dragons. These creatures boast thick and durable bodies, are capable of casting incredible magic as well as capable of destroying countries. At last, there is the highest class of dragons called the true dragons. These are considered unrivaled in their magic, and their mere roar can annihilate islands with ease. Humans can't defeat these dragons normally, and they're classified as natural disasters on their own. Bash even mentions the legendary dragons Volgs as well as Horiera, and claims that Tiltu has been responsible for bringing down a powerful true dragon just like them in the past. He's just out here glazing her strength for being one of the strongest dragon hunters the world has ever seen. Norn is now convinced that she's even more powerful than his parents, such is the strength of the Dragon Slayer princess. Confirming that, Bash reminds him just how stupid his offer is. However, this time Tiltu is the one to stop the blue-haired warrior from ranting. She wants him to go on ahead and check with the Adventurers Guild. It seems that the warrior has taken an interest in the young boy. She gently places her hand across his face, and lovingly tells him that they'll talk later. Norn is left stunned in place. While he's sad that they didn't accept his offer, he's looking forward to meeting Tiltu again. He journeys in the opposite direction, reminding them that he'll return to be taken care of once he has become strong enough. Tiltu waves him goodbye with a smile, while Bash thinks the boy is foolish for thinking that, because if he does end up becoming stronger than Tiltu, he won't need the protection of anyone in the world. Norn is still pacing ahead with his new mission of becoming strong enough to become recognized, to become worthy of being taken in. His first objective is to achieve the highest possible title among the adventurers, and for that, he's looking forward to stealing the spot of a dragon hunter. The scene shifts to a different location. A red-haired warrior has sensed the scent of a true dragon emerging from the west, the same location where the Dragon Slayer princess is soon to journey. The man instructs his apprentice to go and hunt the creature. Norn is bulldozing his way past the city to find the Adventurers Guild. This kid is literally going explosively fast with every step to reach his desired destination. Suddenly, a particular sight caught his eye. Recognizing a prized dragon ornament displayed on the building, Norn wonders if this is supposed to be the guild he's looking for. Excited as a young boy, he opens the doors to unlock his destiny to become a dragon hunter. But when the boy enters inside, he's flashed by a guy he certainly wasn't expecting. Turns out this is supposed to be a tavern instead of the guild. Both men recommend that he go home since he won't find anything worth his time here. The steam coming from them makes the boy tremble. Norn is reacting negatively to a strong scent, knocking his senses around. Norn didn't think about it before, but it turns out humans smell way worse than expected. The lousy man asks if the kid is doing all right. Apparently the stench is so bad that it makes Norn vomit out a ton. Both men are disgusted that he threw up on their faces. Norn realizes that he messed up badly and decides to clean up the mess. From his inventory, he retrieves the magical tool capable of cleaning anything in an instant. It's the magic purity napkin, and with one swipe, the man is turned to new in mere seconds. It all happened in a few moments, before they could even finish their complaining. To them, it seems like he never threw up at all. That's how fast he was. Norn decided to make himself comfortable at the tavern. He learns about the receptionist's desk. The red-haired warrior is patiently observing him. The little boy comes up to the bar lady to ask for the receptionist's desk. He loudly proclaims that he doesn't want to become an adventurer and instead aspires to become a dragon hunter. He wants to become just like Tiltu. His ambitious and bold announcement catches the attention of the surrounding adventurers. Shortly after, every single person there roars in laughter. The fact that he's so confident about becoming a dragon hunter, and one that is comparable to Tiltu, is mind-boggling to them. The lady offers him a word of advice. She thinks that he may be overestimating his talents and going ahead of himself. After all, to become a dragon hunter, he first needs to become an adventurer, and then gradually build up his rank. Then in order to become a dragon hunter, he'll have to learn from one, and then pass strict tests to make himself worthy of the title. Norn is still delighted and thinks he should just become an adventurer first then. The lady confirms and asks if he's sure about doing that. After Norn confirms that he wants to pursue the job, she hands him out a form to fill out his information. As he's happily filling out the form, the lady is worried that this kid might just end up dead. Right as he's filling out the form, one warrior calls the boy from behind. The red-haired warrior inquires if he's really looking to become a dragon hunter like Tiltu. The man extends him an offer of a lifetime to become his disciple, as he will train the boy to become just as strong as her. Gurud's extensive offer to Norn surprises everyone, including Norn himself. Wielding a giant sword on his back and the perfect brooding body, this man is a steaming powerhouse to be reckoned with, and Norn can sense that from here. So if he does accept his offer to become his disciple, there's 100% chance he will surely become a dragon hunter and achieve his goal. Then he'll join the other dragon hunters like Tiltu. The boy politely submits himself to Gurud. The receptionist lady has to warn him that while this guy may be a big-shot dragon hunter, he's currently not in service. Gurud probably claims that he's powerful enough that he no longer needs to go job hunting. What's more is that this same dude is responsible for training Tiltu, which dazzles the young boy who is aspiring in her footsteps as well. Some people have a grudge against Gurud, since he left Tiltu to herself and went on his own way. However, Garud is in the mood to show Norn what he's truly capable of and tosses a stone in the air. The stone is instantly slashed into a clean cut with his weapon. It may seem like a simple feat, but Norn explains that Garud struck the object with divine precision. Norn couldn't have pulled it off himself. The lady is bored to death because Garud is apparently a one-trick pony with his demonstrations. But that doesn't matter since Norn is already prepared to become the retired dragon hunter's disciple before he's even able to finish his sentence. The boy dangles around in happiness, having finally found himself a mentor, but it seems like Garud has intentions of his own. He approached the boy for the magical tools he possesses in his arsenal, not to mention the loads of cash he has on his hands. The lady gives him 1 week. When Garud asks what she's talking about, she explains that he's got one final week left until his qualification as the dragon hunter will get revoked, which means he's supposed to hunt a dragon, or else he'll lose his special status. Garud is frightened to hear this, but this is the only fair way to treat him. Garud realizes that he's stuck with some real trouble, since they're tasked to hunt a dragon within a week's time. He sulks in depression, realizing that the task is impossible since they won't be able to find a dragon in that time span. The lady calls him pathetic for his act and decides to pitch in a small favor. She knows a lead on some dragon sightings which might be able to help him look for them. Gaining his interest, she explains that there have been a bunch of creepy rumors roaming around the city, mainly because of wandering zombies. It's only been recent, but in a town close by, there have been a number of reports of corpses wandering around and chanting words of misery. They're just like zombies in excruciating pain. Word has it that it is caused by a special dragon, as there have been sightings on the shadow of a winged monster. While these two stories seem to be different, the lady thinks it might be connected. Be that as it may, she's got zero confidence in this lazy fart and thinks he'll flunk the case. But Garud is ready to rumble since he's got no choice. He's ready to hunt the dragon and return. That's how the boy met his first teacher. Shockingly, Garud claims that he's not the one who's going to hunt the creature, passing on the responsibility to his newest disciple. Out of there, Garud inquires why he's so interested in becoming a dragon hunter, since kids aren't supposed to have unrealistic expectations set so high. The boy wants to tell him but realizes that he shouldn't say he's looking for a strong human. Instead, he chooses to lie and use weakness as his reason to become just as strong as Tiltu. It's a claim that Garud immediately scouts as a lie and accuses the boy of hiding something from his master. Norn is rather caught off guard by the sheer abilities of this man, as Garud seems to possess the magic eye, a power that is capable of cutting through all deception. With no excuse left, Norn is impressed and decides to spill the truth. However, Garud has changed his mind and wants the boy to be at ease since he's disinterested. The guy thinks he probably likes Tiltu's beautiful looks or something, and he couldn't be more wrong. Norn sees this man as someone possessing an open and considerate heart for others' feelings. Norn addresses his master and inquires if their mission is to go find the dragon right away. The man tells him that there's no point rushing the process, since they should begin with a strategy meeting back. Norn is excited to visit his master's home. The boy is utterly speechless when he sees that Garud owns a mansion. But then the funniest part comes. Turns out Garud lives in a small house just next to the mansion. The little guy's expectation went to shit immediately. Inside, Garud has kept his house a stinking mess of a place. Norn is shocked that his master doesn't have a mansion to himself. Garud decides to use this moment as a very important lesson for the boy, and boldly reminds him that money means nothing to a man's strength. Fired up, the retired dragon hunter tasks the boy with his first mission. Norn is excited and ready to rumble. His first task is to clean the entire place down, and within mere seconds, the boy gets it done using his magical napkin. The next thing is hunting for some food, but there are no problems in that department, since this kid unleashes a fuck ton of food from his bag. This sleazy dragon hunter is shocked by his incredible agility. He tells Norn to move around a bit so he can judge his movement. Norn goes all Dragon Ball Z with his lightning-fast speed and literally soars in the skies with his wings. This is a problem, and Garud's resting bitch face is enough to prove that. Norn descends with his wings, happy to receive his master's report regarding his performance. Garud has a really hard time trying to explain this. Dude needs a cigar and tries his best to downplay the kid's brilliant performance. He uses every cell in his body not to give him a compliment. Garud asks where he came from, and when Norn explains that he came from the Goliath Island, he spits out his damn drink. Garud is literally sweating bullets now. That island is the same place where the legendary dragon hunter Valzar faced against the dark dragon Volgs, as well as Horiera. Norn blurts out that he's actually their kid. With every passing second, Garud's face is turning to shit. He can't find it in himself to stay calm after hearing the absurd words coming out of the boy's mouth. After all, it doesn't make sense that the kid's parents are the strongest dragons in the entire world. But when he sees Valzar's legendary holy weapon, the Excalibur, as well as Norn's out-of-the-world abilities, it's not completely unbelievable for Garud to accept. He has no idea what he should do. He could kill the boy or run the fuck away from him. But then this sleazy retired fart decides that he's just stumbled on a lottery ticket. After all, he can use this kid to hunt all of the dragons for him without doing any of the work himself. Garud plays his part and downplays Norn's jump from earlier, claiming that the boy is still inexperienced in his training. He points to the boy's feet, blaming Norn for killing the little mouse with a sudden takeoff. Rest in peace, Mr. Mouse, you will be missed. Garud tells him that he's lacking extreme control of his strength, but he can help the boy achieve that. Trapped by his words, Norn begs for his master's approval in the hopes of receiving his guidance. It's exactly what this redhead bastard wanted, since he's going to use the boy to hunt dragons wherever they are. This way, this idiot will be able to pay off his debt as well as enjoy the reigning wealth. And now let's transition to a different place, a more bloody setting. An innocent man has just been terrifyingly murdered, begging for the last bits of his life. But his assailant is a man of principle, and since the man owed him 10 gold coins, he's more than happy to cover the amount by selling the man's organs. What a chilling scene, as he collects the man's heart in his storage full of them. This scumbag is hoping to enjoy his business by selling the organs collected. The man realizes that he's approaching death, but it turns out this man is even more of an evil villain than I thought. He's prepared to heal this dude every single time he rips his organs out. That's what he does to prolong the man's endless suffering. With a touch of his fingers, the man's organs have been repaired. How scary that is. As the scene comes to an end, we see many different hostages in the same situation. Blood spilled on the floor, all of them begging for the release of death. But this mad bastard has no plans of stopping, and decides to spill some brand new information on the crew. He shows an illustration of Norn, who is a new kid in town with way too much gold on his hands. Everyone knows the boy became Garud's apprentice. The man commands his slaves to stand up and target Norn, as this might be their one chance to finally pay off their debts. And that's how these mindless zombies are created, mumbling nothing but the talk of money and their endless pain. This psychopath has created his army, and he's ready to use them to retrieve even more money, even allowing them the chance to kill both Norn and Garud if they like. Norn is munching on his food while Garud is left utterly stunned. This kid eats more than Goku does in one sitting. All that food from earlier has been reduced to dust, because Norn has taken an intense liking to human food. Garud, on the other hand, thinks that the kid is severely abnormal for an infinite appetite. He's confident that the kid is capable of beating dragons. The boy's master wants him to work for the food that he just ate, when suddenly they both hear a knock on the door, catching Garud's attention. Norn doesn't know what's going on, while Garud is suspicious who could be approaching them at this hour. The naive little boy stupidly approaches the door while Garud warns him. Suddenly the door breaks open by an angry fellow who has been hunting for Garud. Turns out that these guys are the ones this jobless sword clown borrowed his loans from, and they're here for their payment in kind. They also came here because of the loud rumors of his apprentice Norn. They're wondering where the boy is. Unfortunately, Garud has to point to the door to show them that they're literally stepping on that kid. Poor Norn is grabbed by the man, because he thinks he's found himself a ticket to get his money back. He shakes the little kid, hoping for some coins to pop out. At this point, Norn is observing how this is the second case of a robbery. He's slowly learning how human greed works, and that they'll do anything for money. Norn is tossed aside as they get desperate with their money. Garud calls them a bunch of loan sharks, but I can't blame them either. He tells Norn that after borrowing something, one has returned it in kind. The boy agrees, as it's supposed to be an equal exchange. The dragon hunter points to the imbeciles and makes an example out of them. He claims that they always demand people to return the amount with way too much interest. Norn is shocked hearing this, but it turns out these fellows are known as the corrupt lenders, who are exclusively hunting for desperate people like Garud, with the power of compound interest. Garud acts like he's the one getting inconvenienced by them, gaining Norn's support as he thinks they're the worst people there are. Garud pumps the little boy to go on and get rid of the fools in front of them, since they're supposed to be bad people. But the boy is terrified of what he just heard, since he thinks he's way too weak for strong humans. This kid doesn't know how OP he is. Garud plays him like a fiddle and instructs him to just execute a difficult trial. The boy's objective is to make sure he avoids hitting the people. Garud's hiding like a damn princess while sending this kid to the front lines. He reflects that Norn might actually end up killing these guys if he attacks them, which is why he tasked the boy not to hit. The fight's about to begin. The three men are done playing around and won't even stop to beat up a kid. They unleash their weapons and take matters seriously. The first sword approaches Norn, as the boy reminds himself not to strike them. He's thinking of a strategy that involves seducing his opponents without striking them. In this brief moment, the weapon is approaching the boy, when suddenly, an idea clicks in his head. He remembers Garud's advice to control his strength, and with that in mind, he takes a different approach to the fight. The boy uses a tiny amount of dragon language magic and releases a fraction of his Sky Dragon Roar attack against the three enemies. But this tiny little breath that you see is actually a misrepresentation of its truth strength. That small roar unleashes the might of a beast, swindling one of the men several feet away and leaving a giant hole in the house. You can already see the other two guys just looking at each other with the most "what the fuck just happened" face I've ever seen. Norn asks for his performance report, and Garud is glad to find that he didn't kill the guy. His master thinks he did well but prefers a gentler approach. Norn, now pumped up with the knowledge of what he has to do, immediately gets to work with the other two scoundrels. Only voices of agony escape the house as both men are launched outside. Norn stands there, happy as he can ever be, while Garud is a little terrified of his strength. The boy had never expected to use his strength in such a way before. He already knows that Garud's magic eye ability makes him immune to deception, which is why he didn't pull any funny tricks. Norn believes that he's become stronger as a result of today's training, while his master addresses the cleanup required after the mess. The leader of the men he just took down is back for more, begging them to just return the money, because if they don't, a specific person will actually come and kill him for good. It's so bad that he's practically begging Gurud to return the money. Despite his reasons, the jobless dragon hunter claims that he doesn't really have money to pay off the debt. In this situation, Norn decides to take a stand and helps out the poor man by handing him a bunch of gold coins from his bag. This shows that the boy has a kind heart, but maybe to a naive extent. Gurud is demolished because he's handing out so much money. Norn did hand him the gold coins, but he wants to know what he'll do with the amount. The man expresses that he's happy to just repay his own debts, and after that, he'll use the rest of it for his family. Norn asks for further clarification, so the man tells him that he's got enough now to buy food and toys for his family. Through this exchange, Norn has come to a greater understanding of how humans operate. As he stands before the desperate man, the boy innocently asks if humans are capable of gaining one's affection with money. This hits the man really deep in his emotions, as he feels a sense of dread. It's kind of an enlightenment, because the boy made him ponder what truly matters isn't money. He decides to return the amount and claims that he's in no shape to see his own son in such a way. That's why he wants to pay off his debts himself, and then he'll prioritize spending more time with his family. Excited to hear that, Norn wishes the best for him. He has come to understand how it's difficult to support a family. Meanwhile, Gurud, being the sleazy son of a bitch he is, sneakily tries to steal the coins before Norn catches him. Gurud is drawn to the view outside, bearing a serious expression on his face. He tells the boy that they've got more to deal with, since these guys have a really scary boss that governs them. The retired dragon hunter is hoping to bring justice to this world and expunge evil from this world by subduing this man. Galatea is the man he's talking about, the same guy who was torturing his organ slaves earlier. Gurud's new mission is to take this guy down, and his midget support is also ready to rumble. Well, it's not like the guy has a sense of justice or anything. He's just looking for a way to cut his debts for good. Gurud tells the boy about Galatea's headquarters. Norn wonders why they aren't working to eradicate the dragons right now, since that's supposed to be their main goal. Gurud explains that humans are sometimes even worse than dragons with their evil methods, and that's how they march their way inside with an explosive entrance. Inside, there's already visitors expecting them, all of them working under Galatea. They immediately recognize that these guys are supposed to be their targets, especially Norn. Like a moth to a flame, they all come rushing to attack, believing that they've found themselves a lottery ticket to pay their debts. Gurud happily shoves his midget disciple ahead to take care of the mess on his own. Norn regulates some of his powers and hears from his master how he still isn't supposed to attack a single one of these men. Norn accepts the fact that he has to undergo training and become even stronger, no matter the difficulty. So now comes the boy's approach, surrounding himself with the power of dragon language magic and using a wind flow disruption technique. This is a special technique that governs the flow of wind around the body. The wind controls the body and manipulates it with a turbulent flow, tossing away any attacker. Gurud thinks he's still going way too heavy on his attacks, so Norn is happy to control his strength even more. One of the goons comes up to face him with a magic tool made from a dragon's hair. It's called the Black Rope Fist, and it specializes in dealing heavy bouts of damage. The psychopath is glazing himself that he'll go easy and everything, but it turns out he's just a shit talker because he also gets manhandled with just one attack. After this, Norn concentrates on holding back even more. The rest of the men are stupid enough to attack him. He swiftly handles them with a few flicks, passing by each man and calculating a precise strike. Even when the swords are dead in his face, the boy approaches them with patience and calmly destroys every single one of them. But during this, Norn messed up. And while he did take care of each man, he found himself with a severe terminal case of a loud tummy ache. Turns out the kid had way too much human food and now he's paying the price. Gurud comes rushing thinking that something happened to the boy. Norn looks like a helpless puppy holding his stomach. Hearing so much noise, Galatea decides to make his entry at last. His dark looming figure stands before them. He gleefully asks if Gurud has come here to repay his debt. In response, the loud warrior shouts at him and claims that he won't be paying the interest. Galatea argues that he isn't in the wrong as it was all written in the contract they agreed upon. I believe him because Gurud seems like a dude who empties his bank account and then checks it afterwards. Norn sees Galatea and smells a strange scent. Galatea is a little annoyed that they went as far as to hurt his men. The freak show from before can barely speak, but his boss is happy to heal him and free him from the pain. The dark magic ends up revitalizing his subordinates, but the process looks inhumane to Gurud. Norn doesn't understand why it's wrong since he's using healing magic to help others. However, even the naive boy can sense that something about his healing is different. Just then, the boy experiences yet another pang in his stomach. He apologizes to his master for a bathroom break and dashes away, leaving Gurud in the lurch against the main boss. Galatea isn't done with him, however, and reminds the warrior that he should return what he's owed. Then he tasks all of his men to rise up. Gurud has an arrogant attitude because he thinks none of these guys will be able to stand after getting their ass kicked. But even he's shocked as they're all slowly rising in pain. They rush to attack their target while Gurud realizes just the kind of man Galatea is, who is so unforgiving that he doesn't even forgive his own people for working under him. Their skin turns a feverish pink as they beg the pain to stop, and yet they can't out of loyalty. Gurud realizes that he's really got to fight in this battle, and calling for Norn isn't working either, since the boy is taking a shit from really far away, still hyping his master up for his fight. Garud pulls out his giant sword to demolish these freaks while Galatea mocks them for being useful toys. Garud tries to stop them as Norn is worried for his master. The subordinates all pounce on this guy, making Norn worry for his master, and he can't even join the fight because of how bad his condition is. He decides to offer his support just in case his master needs it. Casting the dragon language magic, the boy sends a wave of red underneath the men, before engulfing them in a sea of mud. This attack is called the Mud Dragon Mount, and it has successfully trapped these guys in one place. Norn thinks this much should be enough from his side. The little guy is still suffering from that diabolical diarrhea as he puts up a thumb to show that he's done his part. Garud is happy and prepares to target Galatea, who no longer has the support of his men. Galatea is pleasantly surprised to discover just how powerful this little boy is. One of his men is thanking his boss for saving his life, but it turns out Galatea isn't that kind. Instead, he's looking for an immediate repayment with the man's body. This guy literally ragdolls him like a damn weapon, waving a literal human as if he were a sword. Garud grows sick of his methods, while Galatea flings the human around like a nunchuck, calling him nothing more than a weapon. Garud dodges his attacks one after the other as Galatea explains just how durable humans really are in their bodily compositions. Their bones paired with flesh makes a perfect organism, which won't break with ease. And if they do, he can always mold them back into place, just like how he's doing with his current toy. He releases the human like a projectile while Garud blocks his attack, realizing that this guy is a real damn villain instead of being a shark boss. What's truly surprising is that he seems to be an opponent not even Garud can win against. In fact, he's clinging to the hope Norn will come back soon. After all, he doesn't want to imagine the nightmares he'll go through if Galatea gets a hold of his body. The fear succumbs him, but the courage of a dragon slayer keeps him tied. Garud knows he has got to hunt the dragon so he can't give up. Galatea happily tosses the human away, bored with him already. Next, he grabs another one as a replacement. Garud is mustering up his courage, and all for what? This guy just runs away like a clown, surprising even Galatea. Garud doesn't care for the human lives that are begging for his help. He thinks that they have to answer for themselves by taking on the debt, deeming them as people who are worth less than saving. Garud's hypocritical monologue is interrupted by a flying human coming at him full speed. His brain is telling him to just dodge no matter what, but he realizes that if he dodges, he'll leave the innocent man in even more pain. So he tanks the full blow of Galatea's attack, saving the human's life in the process at the cost of injuring himself. Garud releases him as the man Endless expresses his gratitude to his savior. Remembering his old days, Garud has reawakened his fighting spirit. With his trembling hands, he takes out his heavy blade and plunges it into the ground, remembering that he's a dragon slayer. Norn's stomach is back to normal, while Galatea has a really funny reaction to this. He's just laughing at how weak this dragon slayer is, even mocking him for falling unconscious. Galatea transforms and mocks the human for thinking they could hunt dragons. He's decided to go full force and rip the weakling of a dragon slayer apart. As he's about to attack him, Norn steps forth with a powered-up fist and shoves it right in Galatea's body with so much force that he's nuked away. Norn still has a positive impression of his master, and tells Garud that he's all fine now. Norn's attack just now has left a hole in the wall, going as far as to put down trees in the forest just to absorb the impact. Galatea from afar casts dragon language magic of his own, making Norn realize that they might be in trouble. Galatea activates Lizard Eye, an attack that morphs the surrounding humans into stone. Even Norn's body is taking the effect. Galatea has revealed his full transformation, and claims that anyone who comes in contact within his sight gets turned to stone. Basically, it's an overpowered version of Medusa's magic, since you don't have to make eye contact. The stone dragon stands before Norn, and was the real answer for the strange scent he found earlier. Norn turns to his master, and realizes that this dumb bastard got turned to stone as well. What's really funny is that Norn thinks Garud allowed himself to get hit on purpose, so the boy could have the chance to fight instead of him. As he's expressing his gratitude for his master, the stone dragon whips him away with a powerful attack. Galatea thinks he's quite strong for a human, forcing himself to use dragon language magic. As for Galatea's subordinates, some of them are experiencing the horror of his real face. They're hoping he'll fix the petrification spell, but this sadistic dragon isn't playing around. He smashes their bodies, believing they're all useless to him anyway. Norn is still down while this is happening. He hears the cries of the people, and questions Galatea why he's inflicting so much pain to his allies. The cruel, merciless stone dragon couldn't give a crap about what he thinks. He calls the boy naive for ever thinking that a dragon like him could ever accept a lower-class species. To him, they're just ants, basically. Norn understands now as Galatea comes rushing forth to attack him again. He's been meaning to ask the boy a question regarding the recent rumor of a boy being raised by the legendary dragons. His fist connects with Norn's face, as he thinks that their act of concern for the human child has been nothing but a display of their pet mentality. The boy ignores the physical pain of the punch and instead digests what he just heard. Galatea strikes him down again, reminding the boy that his parents just found a pet to play around with, and took him in because of their personal interest. He also thinks that their infatuation with him eventually faded once he grew up, which led the dragons to discard the boy. Those exact thoughts are conflicting with Norn's mind, as he reminisces about the past. The stone dragon sharply manipulates Norn's understanding of the story, and continues bashing the boy with his powerful punches. By now, Norn is on the ground, defeated. The stone dragon doesn't even want to deal him the killing blow and walks away. However, when Norn stands up again, Galatea is agitated and in the mood to kill him for good. Unleashing a ferocious punch, filled with his belief of the dragon's superiority, Galatea lunges to finish off Norn. But this time something happens. The boy blocks the attack, demanding that the bashful dragon shut his insolent mouth. For the first time, we see an angry Norn, and when he releases his punch, it only takes one to send the dragon away. Galatea is surprised that he's wrapped in a weird magic barrier. The barrier sent him flying forward with momentum out of his control. Now, Galatea really doesn't have a way to dodge, so he chooses to prioritize blocking with his body. Norn, on the other hand, filled with his anger, prepares a devastating punch and sends it roaring with his full might. The stone dragon crashes down into the ground, having suffered the immensely powerful punch. As it lays defeated, the stone dragon roars in agony. Norn's previous attack was powerful enough to annihilate its armor. Galatea is baffled by the boy's incredibly inhuman strength, to the point he's begun to question what he is. In response, Norn disgracefully grabs the dragon's face and declares that he's the son of the true dragons Vogels and Horiera. Galatea realizes that he's the pet they've brought up and tries to mock Norn. However, this kid is no longer playing around. He slams a fist in the stone dragon's face, obliterating its head from its body. Galatea finds the revelation amusing, and proceeds to counter by slamming a fist in the boy's belly. This dragon just won't stay down. Norn is sent flying after Galatea exerted everything into his punch. He is impressed by the boy's physical strength as well as his abilities, which could only be obtained from dragons. In the meantime, the stone dragon supercharges into the air while regenerating its head. With most of its head regenerated, the monster activates its petrification ability, forcing Norn on the defensive. Galatea reminds the boy that he's still just a human and has a lot to learn when it comes to overcoming dragons. Unfortunately for the boy wonder, he's become stone, much to the amusement of Galatea. The stone dragon is back to its full strength, and arrogantly proclaims the difference between humans and dragons, reminding the boy that he's nothing more than a plaything once again. Those haunting words reach the boy's ears, reverberating again and again. Galatea declares that he will be obliterated by the time he hits the ground, and will be remembered as a plaything of the dragons. Instead of rejecting reality, Norn comes to accept that he's indeed nothing more than a pet. He reminisces the memories he shared with his parents. Norn's fall goes deeper and deeper, and at this rate, things are looking bad for him. But then, the boy comes to a sudden realization. He never really had an issue being treated like a pet. Right then, some of the petrification begins wearing off. Norn continues his previous thought, confirming that his parents, while sharing a difference in species, still love them. That is an undeniable fact, or so the boy wants to believe. Right this moment, Norn's body plummets to the ground, and since he was basically an immovable statue, Galatea wonders if he's finally managed to kill the persistent human. But then, much to his shock, the stone dragon is stumped to see that Norn survived the crash at the last second with his fancy hero landing. The boy has also unleashed his wings, and now he's ready to bring out the big guns. Norn activates dragon language magic and concentrates his powers through the wind. This helps him so incredibly fast in the sky, shocking Galatea with his insane speed. Using his incredible speed factor as an advantage, Norn descends on the dragon's body with a powerful kick, reminding the monster that he learned every single technique from his parents, the same beast that he claims treated him like a toy. Wearing a ferocious expression, the boy declares that his true family and friends never cared about the differences in their species. At this point, Galatea is taking a brutal beatdown and angrily lashes out in response. The boy's words have triggered a traumatic memory for him. You see, Galatea was abandoned by his own kind, the dragons. He whips out his sharp claws and starts slicing down Norn's body, pissed that he doesn't have family or friends of his own, unlike Norn, who acquired them despite being a human. Instead of choosing to respond with an attack, the boy curiously seeks interest in his past. Galatea explains that when he was young, he was the smallest among the stone dragons. For that simple reason, as trivial as it sounds, his harsh family abandoned their own and took off before his eyes. Left to his own devices, the young dragon was bullied by much stronger beasts after being abandoned with no one left to protect him. It was then Galatea discovered that while his family and friends betrayed him, money was different. The coin never betrayed him, and so he thought that if he acquired enough money, it could finally help him achieve comrades of his own. To Galatea, his life circles around money because that's the tool of his salvation. Galatea laughs like a maniac dragon, clearly displaying no sense of reason. Norn takes a second to understand the dragon's background, understanding how Galatea has faced loneliness and has been on his own for a long time. Back to their fight, the stone dragon prepares to unleash its strongest magic attack, hoping to end Norn this time for good. Chanting dragon language magic, the beast unleashed the arm of the monstrous dragon. It's just like its name implies, morphing his arm into 10 times its original size. The stone dragon is arrogant in his strike, believing that Norn won't be able to handle this level of an attack. He puts everything into this one attack, begging that it will be enough to knock down Norn for good. But then, the dragon hesitates as he sees the young boy hovering without a response. A tear trickles down his face. Norn has just experienced sadness. He's crying for the stone dragon after hearing about its sad life. Galatea chooses to commit to his attack, despite his previous hesitation, though he is still confused why the boy is crying while he's rushing to kill him. Barely able to speak, the boy wipes his tears and expresses that the young dragon must have suffered so much on his own, with no one to fend for him. Clenching his fist, the boy decides to make a decision of his own. He echoes Galatea his name and shockingly opens his arms to embrace Galatea. The boy has decided that he will take care of the stone dragon from now on. Norn is prepared to take care of the stone dragon, but what does that even mean? That's exactly the thought running through Galatea's head, as he can't digest the idea of a dragon being taken care of by a lowly human. Galatea chucks his Godzilla-sized fist at the boy. The attack connects, causing a beam of light blasting through the clouds. The stone dragon is exhausted after his attack, but even then, Norn simply stands there, looking like an innocent boy who couldn't even hurt a butterfly if he wanted. Galatea can't stand being pitied and hammers the boy with another powerful punch. The stone dragon has had enough with the idea of love, and no longer deems it a priority in his life. Currently, he hates being pitied and taken less seriously by his opponent. Galatea's outrage may be what it is, but his emotions eventually swallow him as the pitiful dragon begins to cry. Catching the monster's hand with his earth gauntlets, Norn pulls Galatea towards him for a hug. This loving act surprises the stone dragon once more. The boy's look is one of sadness, as if to say that he can't do more to help Galatea besides embracing him. The stone dragon demands that he be freed. The boy finally speaks, confirming that he does in fact pity the dragon, because he's seen that Galatea never learned how to rely on others for help. It's understandable because ever since he was a child, he was abandoned and had to rely on himself. So now, Norn has decided to become a parent for him instead, which is actually quite interesting. Norn requests the stone dragon to surrender and be taken care of by him. Hearing those impossible words coming from the boy's mouth, Galatea hesitates and begins to cry. The boy emphasizes that he will protect him no matter what, making him feel safe in his presence. Let's explore what Galatea is thinking right now. In front of him is a human child, who is requesting to become a parent to a grown dragon. Nothing about it makes sense, and yet the stone dragon can't deny one thing. The comfort he received from Norn and the kindness shown to him is just mellow and warm. It makes him feel safe, the kind of safe that he never felt before. Anyway, as he's unable to fight Norn, the dragon ends up transforming. From among the smoke emerges a smaller dragon. Norn points out the shift in his form and realizes that Galatea has taken a familiar contract form to accept Norn's request. The baby dragon hesitantly asks if the boy is happy to become its parent. With a smile on his face, Norn happily accepts and emphasizes his consideration. Galatea is moved to tears and decides that it's time to restore the balance of everything. With one spell, he undoes all of the damage and chaos, specifically relating to the petrification spell on his subordinates. He even goes as far as to restore their limbs, causing full regeneration on any injured humans. Gurud is the same, as the petrification spell lifts from his body, allowing him to breathe again. The boy comes rushing to the dragon hunter, looking for a review on his fight against Galatea. However, this redhead idiot can't help but notice Galatea's smaller state, as well as observing how everyone around them has healed from petrification. All answers lead to one. Gurud realizes that Norn was successfully capable of beating the stone dragon, and for that, he's proud of his apprentice. Gurud calls for their return for a mighty feast. Back at the crib, Norn is giving Goku a competition again when it comes to eating. The dragon hunter is convinced that the lottery ticket he pulled is just going to pull him into deeper debt with how much he eats. As for Galatea, he's prepared to dissolve the entire group, even going as far as to hand over every last penny that he earned to these fools. Norn thinks it's a reckless decision while Gurud is celebrating, up until the boy mentions that his master doesn't like stolen money. To keep up his act, the man cries tears, accepting that he just won't be able to snatch any of the stolen money. What's really funny is that Norn has somehow gotten the impression that his master is insanely overpowered because of their fight. He wishes to follow Gurud's example of greatness. Gurud inquires about Galatea's location, wondering if he returned to the dragon's realm. Norn denies any such thing and expresses that Galatea is actually just around them. After a door knock, one steps foot inside. It's a maid. But the really hilarious twist is that this chick is Galatea altering his appearance as a human. This dude ended up becoming the ultimate trap. Norn comments how he ended up deciding to become a phantom dragonkin. But get this, the plot twist to the plot twist. It turns out that Galatea has always been a female, but she chose to appear as a male to make matters convenient for her. Her real name is Garland Tia Barrett, and she prefers the nickname Ladia. The chick is rather embarrassed to address Norn as her papa, which is why the boy thinks she should just use his real name instead. Ladia expresses that she's got something for him. She showcases one of her horns, imbued with powerful dark magic. Latia wants the boy to use this horn as a symbol to increase his reputation as a dragon hunter. This is exciting news for both Gurud and Norn, since it will make matters easier. Norn pats Ladia for her help and receives a hug in response. Meanwhile, Gurud can't fathom how different the stone dragon is acting all of a sudden. With their mission cleared, Gurud happily decides on a return trip to see the guild and prove wrong to everyone who doubted his abilities. Exploring the far northern region, we have the fortress city Griorol. Talks of the dragon hunter's victorious return are celebrated with cheer and glory. They've just hunted an enormous group of adult dragons, which is nothing to scoff at. Among the crowd, one boy is cheerfully happy for the heroes. They're like his idols. Finding an opportunity, the boy shouts and asks if he could also become a dragon hunter like them when he grows up. One of the hunters personally comes to encourage the boy and lifts his spirits with his response. This warrior exhibits tantalizing energy all around him and promises to travel with the boy when he comes of age. Back at the Adventurers Guild, we have the shocked faces of the idle adventurers. Why? It's because the lousy dragon hunter Gurud has returned triumphantly with his hunt, along with his boy apprentice. The adventurers begin to mock Gurud for being unable to complete the mission and returning prematurely out of fear. Little do they know what they've managed to accomplish. Even the lousy alcoholic from earlier teases Norn for slowly taking the path of a newbie adventurer. The lady at the desk is so confident they failed that she reminds Gurud that his license is as good as gone now. Assuming that he failed miserably, she requests the dragon hunter to return the dragon hunter's mantle. The redhead signals Norn to hand him the covered horn. Placing the dragon's horn over her desk, the receptionist lady is shocked when it exhibits dark energy, signaling that it's from a stone dragon. The rest of the adventurers are all made shut when they realize that not only is it a stone dragon, but it's also an adult one. Gurud finally breaks his silence and explains that he took care of all the incidents appearing in the city nearby, and even went the extra mile of subjugating the dragon causing them. With that, he doesn't explain anything and hopes to return home, leaving the rest of the adventurers speechless. An annoyed Norn doubles down by removing this man's clothes using super speed and exposing his strawberries. I love this kid. The trio walks out like they have zero fucks to give or prove to anybody, leaving the adventurers stunned. Right now, Norn is thinking just how cool his master is for keeping his mouth shut. The kid thinks a real man has nothing to prove and shows what he's capable of with his actions. While he's impressing his teacher, Gurud isn't the Sigma male Norn thinks he is. He's enjoying the feeling of victory. Since the horn will be appraised by the guild before they receive their next quest, Gurud suggests they enjoy some free time together. Norn inquires further about how things are appraised in the guild, and comes to find that dragon materials are incredibly valuable in society. Some of them are capable of pulling high prices on them. It also depends on the dragon hunter's strength, directly correlating to the lifestyle of their choosing. Norn is taking this information critically, and learns that humans use dragons just like how dragons devour humans. It's a cycle between the two species. Gurud points to the pair of rich dragon hunters just up ahead. From among the crowd, Norn spots Tiltu and Bash just up ahead. They're talking to each other when the boy gets excited seeing her. Gurud props him up to go and speak to the girl since he's so interested. The boy is a little hesitant that he'll come across as a creepy person if he approaches her. His master doesn't care and tosses the kid up ahead, ordering him to man up and talk to her. Tiltu sees him sliding up to her and recognizes the boy immediately. Norn is too flustered to speak and extremely awkward. Gurud happily observes their interaction while sitting on a bench. Tiltu doesn't know what to do, so she ends up taking the kid to a restaurant. For the first time, Norn sees a beautifully decorated parfait, which seems to be a specialty of the place. Tiltu wants to celebrate the moment since she's come to learn about Norn's first dragon subjugation. The boy excitedly confirms, stating that he was capable of doing so thanks to Gurud. He's also excited because he learned from Gurud that Tiltu also trained under him. But for some reason, the warrior doesn't have much to say. She grows silent, prompting Norn to ask if she's feeling okay. The Dragon Slayer princess pitches him a deal, that if he defeats her in a contest, she'd be happy to spill the information. However, even Norn knows that he's just way behind when it comes to beating someone as powerful as her. Turns out Tiltu wasn't talking about sparring or anything. She draws his curiosity about the contest. In the end, the contest was about eating the parfait the fastest. Both of them are going at it like crazy. Norn is just an animal out here with how fast he's eating. Next up is the steakhouse. This kid has the appetite of an elephant, but Tiltu isn't backing down either. She's chugging down just as fast as he is. They eat fish, and still Tiltu is displaying no signs of trouble. It's when they get to the noodles that Norn is starting to feel fatigued. But this chick is crazy. Nothing is stopping her from devouring those noodles. The other hunters observing them are left wondering what kind of kid she brought to the restaurant. Norn realizes that Tiltu is much more of a foodie than he thought. He's the one feeling like he's about to hit his limits. Remembering his father's advice to eat well, the boy thinks that part of becoming a dragon hunter must involve having a black hole for a stomach. Tiltu can visibly see Norn facing difficulty with his noodles. She smiles, and seeing his struggle, decides to forfeit, even though she could have easily beat him. Norn is pleasantly surprised that she decided to give up. What's really funny is her excuse. Check this out, she's on a diet, that's crazy. Tiltu confirms that a happy boy like him is just the kind of friend a lonely person like her requires. Norn happily thanks her for the meal. Outside, he's stuffed sitting on a bench. The princess brings him an apple as dessert, and decides to keep her promise since she lost the challenge. In return, she's happy to talk about anything he wants to know about. Norn begins with his first question, inquiring about when she encountered Gurud. Tiltu cuts him off and confirms that they met a long time ago, which makes the boy assume that they must be in a good relationship with each other. Here's the plot twist. Gurud is actually Tiltu's father. Tiltu doubles down on her words, confirming their relationship. But for some reason, the boy just can't take it. He's completely perplexed hearing the words "Papa" from her. The scene transitions to the golden apple. It is deemed a national treasure of the country, containing a decent amount of magical strength. One mysterious warrior has acquired it, and he's gone on a rampage, killing everyone among the crowd in the fortress city we saw before. He has caused so much terror and destruction, and yet he seeks more. One man is trying to protect the boy from this terrifying figure. It's known that the more powerful creature always requires more to eat. Now we get a top-down view of the fortress city Griarol, and this time, it has been completely destroyed by the villainous figure's rampage. Back to Tiltu, who has just confirmed her relationship with the lousy dragon hunter. Norn asks for clarification, and Tiltu explains that for some reason, Garud doesn't remember that she is his daughter. It's actually because her parents divorced right before her birth. Speaking of her mother, she was also a powerful dragon hunter. Not only was she strong, but also a kind and noble person. It seems that Tiltu really admires her mother's character, as she speaks of her as an eternal role model. However, one disastrous day, tragedy struck, forcing her mother to make a decision. She was facing a powerful dragon when she had to protect her daughter and risk her own life. Norn assumes that her mother already died, but Tiltu corrects him, stating that she's out there. It's just that Tiltu herself went on a personal search to find her father. She wanted to know about the kind of man who ended up falling in love with her mother, as she too is a brilliant woman. In a twist of fate, she got what she wanted immediately and discovered who he was. But that just goes to show how terrible her reputation actually is as an adventurer of the guild. That's why she decided to quit being his apprentice. Tiltu emphasizes that if the boy also doesn't leave him, he's bound to meet the same fate and become ruined. Now this is a new realization for Norn, who really didn't think of Garud as a terrible person, so much so that he's conflicted and asks if she's being serious. After all, he only remembers Garud as an incredible warrior. The boy goes as far as to define this man as a strong person. Tiltu is beginning to realize that this kid is naive to the point of no return, and gets fooled easily. Norn is baffled to hear this, so Tiltu decides to quiz him on a test. She prepares a stone and explains that if Garud is truly powerful, he can dodge it. Norn advises her against something so weak, which confuses her for a moment. The boy explains that Garud's magic eye ability can see through all deception, so it won't work even if she threw a stone or spear at him. He'll always know when to avoid it. Hearing this, Tiltu is really starting to believe that this kid is actually crazy. Norn wants to prove his theory by chucking a damn spear at this guy with his full might. It's really funny because if Garud doesn't dodge this, he's fucked for life, and even Tiltu knows that. The boy prepares his advance and throws the spear with incredible force before Tiltu is able to stop him. The projectile is blitzing at full speed, nearing the sleeping man on the bench. Garud is such a lucky bastard that he coincidentally bent his head down the exact moment the spear was about to strike. This made him avoid the spear without any trouble. He wakes up clueless and wonders if the guild is finished with their appraisal. The spear Norn launched ends up striking down a small dragon and annihilating it instantly. It was so powerful that Garud thought an earthquake just hit them out of nowhere. The rest of the people are busy observing a creature falling down the skies, while Norn points to his master's brilliance, as he avoided the spear using his magic eye. Tiltu doesn't have any words, and is starting to question her previous beliefs about Garud. She now thinks that he might actually be strong. However, her suspicion is still on an all-time high. Norn is prepared to spill the beans to Garud about his daughter, but the Dragon Slayer princess stops him from doing so. She wants to do that herself when she feels it is the right moment. After all, despite his display of strength, Tiltu is yet to acknowledge it fully. The following day, Garud and his group are traveling in a carriage. They've just acquired tons of cash for their mission. The lousy redhead finds his job finally worth it, and the best part is, they got all of this for a mere dragon horn. Norn wonders where they're headed to next, and learns from Garud that they're going to target some dragons in the fields. The dude thinks it's going to be the easiest job ever since people mostly see worm monsters and assume they're dragons. He recommends Norn to hunt the monsters down for him, allowing them to get even richer. Garud is as pumped as ever, when suddenly Norn hears a voice calling from outside. It's an old man whose body is halfway submerged into the ground. It's a call for help. Norn quickly helps him and saves the man's life. The old man thanks Garud for coming to their rescue and explains that while he could usually get out of pits like these on his own, a sudden earthquake weakened his body. Regarding the dragon, the old man points to the pit underground. Garud is confused and takes a look inside, still not knowing what this is about. It's an extremely tiny pit, which means it's nothing more than a snake or worm monster. However, the old man points to the dozens of holes nearby. There are way too many of them to be caused by one small creature. The old man expresses how they suddenly appeared in the past few days, and the earthquakes have only been going up since then. Suddenly, Latia alarms Norn as she's come to a realization. The boy already seems to know what's going on. Both of them join together and acknowledge the dragon's smell from the remains. Analyzing it further, Norn comes to deduce that they may not be dealing with a normal dragon. He feels something coming from the underground and wonders if the dragon is inside. Garud, being the lousy warrior he is, tells the boy to sprinkle some powder into the holes. It's actually a repellent that he made, and he wants the boy to spread it in every hole except one. The old man can't believe that a grown man is tasking a small child with such a dutiful task, but Norn accepts the job without worry, realizing that they're pulling a diversion tactic. First, the boy throws the bag in the air, and then activates his dragon language magic. He uses the Sky Dragon's Roar ability to distribute the powder equally among all of the holes. The old man is severely impressed by the boy's capability, while Norn carefully observes the final roll and wonders if the creature will come out of it. The ground rumbles and shakes as Garud realizes the monster has finally come out of the hole. Norn directs the old man to sit straight as the monster is about to emerge. The creature finally unleashes itself, leaving everyone speechless by its gigantic size. Garud can't believe what he's seeing. Turns out it wasn't really a giant dragon, but rather hundreds of boa worms popping out of the hole. Garud doesn't want to do anything with them, but Norn is still puzzled. He clearly sensed a presence far stronger than just a mere few worms. Garud, on the other hand, thinks that their target wasn't anything beyond a bunch of worms. He directs Norn to defeat the target, when suddenly, Garud is blown away by the geyser's force. This time, the monster has emerged for sure. Norn stares down Nozuchi, an earth dragon. Its sheer size makes the old man shiver in fear, especially since he's with a young boy. The old man recommends calling for reinforcements, but Norn is already on the uptake with a powerful kick, whacking the shit out of the dragon. A single boy completely overwhelmed the giant dragon with its strength. That's a sight the old man wasn't expecting to see. Norn unleashes a blazing fire kick, knocking the beast onto the ground. Garud gets up, proud of the boy's abilities for defeating the monster so easily. Surprisingly, this dragon wants to speak to the boy. Norn comprehends its language and believes they shouldn't return so soon. It turns out that an ancient subterranean dragon that has lived underground for 1,000 years, Midgard Zormr, whose sheer name sends shivers down Garud's spine as it's a true dragon, is calling them from the underground, which is why Norn is excited to go. However, since Garud is a pussy, he really doesn't want to be a part of this. Norn drags him into the hole anyway. Now let's talk about Nozuchi, the dragon he just beat. It's one of the servants of Midgard Zormr. From their earlier chat, the creature apologized for attacking them carelessly. Nozuchi actually drew to the surface to ask for help, since something had disturbed the peace of the underground. But this something is a mystery they don't know about. Garud plummets his face into the ground while Norn and Latia land casually. The boy glances at his surroundings and realizes that this is the rumored dungeon location. He's enchanted having found one, while Garud is losing his shit realizing they're dealing with ancient ruins. He reminds the boy that many adventurers lose their lives in dangerous dungeons. It's a shocking revelation to the boy, who is clearly overwhelmed by the aura of the dungeon. He is uncertain in his own strength, and wonders if he will be capable enough to withstand it on his own. That said, Norn isn't worried because his all-powerful god-level master is here to protect him after all. Meanwhile, you can just see it on Garud's face that he'd kill to escape this place. Anyway, they go inside, and as they're making their way, the exploration seems to be endless. Norn expresses how massive the dungeon seems to be, while his master shouts at him for aimlessly walking without a plan. Norn explains that he can smell the dragon's scent, and it's only getting stronger as they draw nearer. He recommends exploring the deeper dungeon. Norn decides to be the first to strike back, and activates dragon language magic once more. This time, he unleashes the fire dragon breath, sending currents of flame in the deeper dungeon. Norn senses that his attack landed, but at the same time, he senses something in the distance. The boy suggests exploring deeper again. Finally, they find a creature just up ahead. The boy's previous attack just killed a horned rhinoceros in a single strike. Garud is having a hard time comprehending his powers, since even a normal adventurer would be struggling to deal with an A-rank monster like that. Just up ahead, Norn and the others are surprised to run into Tiltu and Bash. The lousy redhead is surprised to find numerous entrances to the dungeon. He's also curious what the two of them are doing here. Tiltu explains that they ended up receiving a request regarding the monsters in the dungeon. Garud comes acting high and mighty, patting his apprentice for doing her job. However, Tiltu is quick to draw the boundary and shoves his hand away, reminding him that she's no longer working under him. Garud is a little shocked to find her so standoffish against him. Tiltu hasn't experienced such strong energy coming from the dungeon in a long time. The closer they get to the lower levels, the denser the magical power becomes. Norn is activating counter-energy of his own to resist the dragon's powers, and thinks that his master must be doing the opposite by dropping his magical output to 0. Bro doesn't know that Garud doesn't have any magic energy to begin with. Anyway, the smell is only getting stronger, which makes him wonder if this is caused by Midgard Zormr's magic, or if it's the work of something even more sinister. At last they arrived. Norn explains that Midgard Zormr is just up ahead. Suddenly the group faces a strong earthquake. One voice calls out and demands to know who they are, before revealing its true form and demanding that they leave at once. This gigantic monstrosity is the dragon Midgard Zormr. The mighty dragon demands the humans leave at once. Bash senses the strength of the true dragon while Latia is overwhelmed by the monster's incredible magical powers. Norn, on the other hand, happily approaches the giant beast, claiming to have met it once before. Midgard Zormr recognizes the boy and greets the young child, even impressed that he made it all the way inside the dungeon. Garud is shocked that the kid knows a true dragon like it's nothing. This same monster is responsible for causing entire tectonic plates to shift with its movement. Now that's some insane levels of power. Every dragon hunter who has ever gone on to challenge this beast has only met their end. Midgard Zormr apologizes to the humans, while Norn remembers how he played with him when he was younger. He wants to know what's bothering the true dragon, especially after he received the message from Nozuchi just outside. Midgard Zormr confirms that it needs some help and places emphasis on its neck. Apparently, something damaged him. Norn thinks that a dragon like Midgardsormr can't be damaged typically by rock slides or something smaller in scale, so he's curious to know what's going on. Turns out one person managed to overwhelm the true dragon. The mention of this mysterious fellow surprises Norn, while Garud points to the dragon's injured neck. Apparently, something is stabbing the scales of the beast and collecting its blood. Midgardsormr has been in pain ever since, and begs the boy to remove it at once. Norn gets to work immediately and uncovers his weapon. He apologizes for whatever is supposed to happen, since it will hurt the dragon. The boy attempts to remove the object, causing Midgardsormr to wail in agony. Since it is stuck deep inside, the boy is having trouble adjusting it and ripping it out with his sword. He wonders what kind of person was powerful enough to cause so much damage to the beast. At last, Norn removes the giant needle, once again causing the beast to experience agonizing pain. With the object removed, the boy decides to share some of his mother's medicine to ease the dragon's open wound. With some of the medicine applied, its skin heals, mitigating the problem. Midgardsormr is indebted to the boy and thanks him. Bash fixates his attention to the spear that was lodged inside the dragon's scales. It seems like a syringe, and it seems to have Midgardsormr's body fluid collected inside. The true dragon explains how his fluid acts like a powerful elixir. The mysterious person collects this fluid from his body and comes back to retrieve it. Thankfully, they're not around right now to cause him any trouble. Garud is left questioning the identity of the person who was strong and daring enough to challenge a true dragon. Bash is also busy in his contemplation when the dragon startles them from behind. Everything is going smoothly until we see the culprit standing in the distance. His body is filled with dark energy, and his appearance barely resembles a human. Even Norn is intimidated in his presence, and Tiltu senses harm. The boy knows this guy is dangerous, so he alerts the group to get back. Now for the heartbreaking reveal. This mysterious villain was strong enough to decapitate Midgardsormr in a clean strike. Its head severed from its body, rests on the ground, much to the horror of the little boy. Even Norn is in utter disbelief, not knowing what could have caused the dragon to die so easily. The incredible strength roaring from this villainous figure is comparable to the powers of the dark dragon Volgs. Latia senses danger and steps up to protect the boy, activating dragon language magic to transform her arm. But before she's able to finish the incantation, the villain knocks her flying with a single punch, barely exerting any effort. The figure finally speaks, filled with disappointment that it can no longer sense powerful dragon magic anymore. Norn questions the man's identity, and it appears Tiltu knows just who he is. This guy isn't even a dragon, but a demon. Garud can't take her seriously since demons aren't even supposed to exist beyond myths. Even Bash questions the legitimacy of her suspicions. The demon stomps its feet and blitzes past both Bash and Garud. It is furious because it came expecting a strong magical power. Yet, upon its arrival, there's nothing but a bunch of humans. He wanted to slay a powerful dragon, but he no longer senses the creature's energy anymore. The demon screams its anger and eventually stops. Then, in a flash of a second, the demon jumps to attack Tiltu with a kick. While she blocks the attack, Tiltu is still sent flying back from the impact. The demon mocks the warrior for carelessly exposing her killing intent. Feeling a sense of dissatisfaction, the demon remarks that it's starving for good. Norn is the second person to challenge the demon, but his attack is just casually blocked as if he were a feather. Even the boy is shocked as he distances himself from the demon. The demon doesn't seem to care about the fight at all and turns to Midgardsormr's flesh. He wants to have his stomach full before challenging the warriors, so he rips the dragon's heart out from its body and chomps on it as if it were nothing. Norn's emotions are triggered with his every action. The demon is disgusted by the taste of the corpse and claims that fluid filled with life is better tasting. Realizing that they're outclassed, Tiltu turns her attention to Norn, while the demonic villain terrifyingly declares that he'll feast on their organs to satiate its appetite. At this time, the boy remembers a story from his father, who recalled a tale. Many years into the past, humans and dragons were ferociously at war with each other without end. During this time, evil beings called the demons began surfacing. They were godlike and tortured both humans and dragons with their cruelty. Until one day, the dragons and the humans decided to form a pact, an alliance for the first time in history, just to combat the evil threat. Together they challenged the demons, and after an intensely long fight, the alliance of humans and dragons became the victors of war. They drove the demons and banished them into a distant continent for good. However, there were humans who were training every day to await the return of demons. The entity they're facing in front of them is none other than a powerful demon itself. Even someone as strong as the dark dragon Volgs feared the existence of demons, so this threat is on a completely different level from everything the boy has faced thus far. Garud, being the annoying loudmouth, requests an introduction from the demon and proudly steps forth. Of course, the demon isn't interested in chatting and simply declines his request. Garud throws a fit and explains how he's a hotshot dragon hunter with a big name. Norn sees this and senses that his master really can't feel the immense aura coming from the demon because he's intentionally suppressing his magical powers. This naive little boy has a lot to learn about humans. Anyway, the demon explains that he's just out here collecting the marrow fluid from the dragon for someone specific. Garud is done with playing around and wants to know just who this guy is working for. The demon finds his senseless chatter quite annoying and decides that it's best to kill them instead. The demon activates dragon language magic, casting an earth dragon claw to erect from the earth. The attack is collectively stopped by Tiltu and Norn, who are struggling to keep up. What's surprising is the demon's use of dragon magic, and he's also using a spell that amplifies its intensity based on its target. Norn realizes that things could get really troublesome for them at this point. Meanwhile, Garud finds an opportunity to strike with his blade, finally some action coming from this guy. He slashes the demon's back and actually renders it a good amount of damage, freeing both Tiltu and Norn from its grasp. The Dragonslayer princess is speechless seeing this guy attack without even amplifying his body with magical power. What's more, he masked his killing intent, allowing him to attack without any trouble. So in short, no magic, and certainly no intention to kill. They call it the state of nothingness. Norn is so impressed by his master's powers that he thinks not even the demons are a match for him. The demon is impressed by the warrior's attack, so much so that he decides to reveal his name. Giselda happens to let his guard down unexpectedly, and realizes that there is indeed a powerful human for him to challenge. In response to Garud's attack, he decides to increase his own magical powers, overwhelming Norn. The demon doesn't want to target the redhead first, as he's saving him for last. In a flash, he vanishes into thin air, and before Bash is even capable of finishing his response, he gets hit with a thunderous fist. Tiltu is far too distracted by his downfall, which is why the demon targets her next in line. She blocks its attack with her sword, but the force is still too strong and sends her crashing into the wall. Tiltu emerges for a counterattack, but her speed is child's play to the demon, who easily dodges her slash. He even praises her for being light on her feet. Now at this point, Garud is starting to lose his shit. He's starting to realize just how powerful the guy they're dealing with actually is. Ladia recommends they form a joint attack, so Tiltu gets into position. Meanwhile, the attack from earlier was so strong that it sent Bash crashing right out of the dungeon. Just one hit from this guy makes him feel like he's gonna die. Norn is quick to catch him, shocking Bash with his flying capabilities. Norn expresses that he's never seen such a powerful attack from someone before. The demon is too strong for their group to handle. Bash is freezing in the air because he's not used to Norn's flight ability. The boy recommends returning back to the dungeon, and descends to check on how Tiltu is holding up. The boy isn't worried after all. His god-level master is there to save the day. And then there's also the might of the Dragonslayer princess, so she'll be hard to take down. Well, that's what he thought. Because inside the dungeon, Tiltu is about to meet her end at the hands of the demon. He's impressed by her powers, but it doesn't change the fact that she was still defeated. The same goes for Ladia, who can't even get up. The demon throws Tiltu's body to the ground and draws near his final target, Garud. The defeated Dragonslayer princess is seen trying to reach for her weapon in a final crutch. Norn is flying as fast as he can to return to the dungeon, and thinks that Tiltu shouldn't be easy to take down. He also believes that it's the right time for him to use the weapon Excalibur that he received from his father. With Tiltu down for the count and Norn away to catch Bash, it all leaves matters in the hands of the redhead. Garud is shitting his pants because he wasn't expecting this demon to turn out to be so strong. Even the stone dragon Ladia is overwhelmed, despite her frustration that the demon caused pain to her parent Norn. Unleashing its full form, the dragon rushes to attack, but the demon easily whacks her punch away as if it were nothing. He comments on her skillful transformations and casually handles each of her attacks without a problem. Latia desperately activates dragon language magic and uses her most powerful attack, the monstrous dragon arm. While it pummels the demon into the ground, in reality, it did nothing. Instead, the demon is interested in retrieving Latia's spinal fluid. He leaps up to counterattack, and with a single punch to her abdomen, Latia experiences screams in pain. The demon is once again impressed that she managed to cast a magical barrier at the last moment, but even then she experienced a ton of damage. Using this opportune moment, the stone dragon captures the demon within her giant palms. The demon mocks the technique and decides to hammer physical attacks from the inside. However, Latia explains that his attacks are going to be useless against her magic body. But it turns out that the demon also has tricks up its sleeve. It can somehow teleport its fists outside, targeting the dragon's main body and hammering down on her relentlessly. While her body is resilient, it faces the wrath of the demon's powerful fists to no end. Despite this, Latia holds on to the demon body with all of her might, to the point it seems like she's willing to give up on her life. Eventually, the demon overwhelms her with his attacks and breaks free from her grip. Before fainting, Latia talks to Tiltu and expresses that the boy is fascinated by her powers. She knows that Tiltu is supposed to be incredibly powerful. The Dragonslayer princess activates her rising dress sword skill, Lightning Garment. In one critical moment, she swipes past the demon's body in crackling electricity. Giselda is clearly wounded from this attack, while Tiltu is ready to test the limits of her attacks against his amplified body. She prepares her blade for a second thunderous strike and rushes to finish him off. Activating her lightning sword, she uses the piercing shoot technique, rendering great amounts of damage against the demon's body. Knowing that he survived even that, she prepares a third technique. Equipping the water lightning sword, Tiltu wields her frost sword and activates the ice lightning needle attack. This attack pierces the demon's body clean with a solid strike. It seems like this battle is over, but Tiltu knows it is not. She prepares a fourth technique and relentlessly attacks him with it. Giselda is overwhelmed by her lightning and ice attacks to the point he's physically expressing his agony. The aftermath of the endless attacks is revealed. His body is impaled with icicles and electrical pikes, rendering him immobile. An exhausted Tiltu stands before Gurud, who is impressed by her powers. She can barely stand, but even she knows that her opponent is yet to have been beaten. Respect to her name for actually trying to confirm the kill. Anyway, Tiltu is in the middle of activating another technique, but by that point, the demon had already broken free and appeared behind her. It blasts her with demonic magic from her blind spot, causing the Dragon Slayer princess to faint instantly. With her knocked unconscious, Gurud runs to her protection and tries to remedy her. The demon is done playing around with the rest of them and thinks that it's time for their destined battle to the death. Outside, Norn senses deep trouble. The real problem is, there are dozens of holes and Norn doesn't know the path they used to get inside. Back to Tiltu, this girl is one resilient warrior. She's stringing together every last bit of her strength to get back up. The scene cuts off with the activation of a magical circle right underneath Giselda and Gurud. The demon stands before his warrior of interest, while Gurud is sweating bullets thinking he'll definitely die. In this case, he thinks the ideal option is for him to run away and hide. Tiltu managed to stand her ground, relieving the lousy warrior because now he won't have to beat the demon on his own. He's rooting for his disciple when in reality, all he cares about is his own safety. However, it's clearly visible from her bleeding wounds that Tiltu is barely managing to even walk in her state. The stubborn hero activates her ability and tries to reuse the same strategy from before. However, even Gurud knows that she is overexerting herself. Tiltu's speed is no longer the same as it was once before, and the demon mocks her for it. So what he does is casually use his magic to smack her down with a kick, declaring her unworthy of his attention. The lousy redhead can't believe that this being is simply toying with her. Tiltu eats another punch to the face. Without question, the demon they're fighting may as well be the symbol of death for anyone who dares to challenge him. Tiltu receives a powerful uppercut, unable to defend with anything but her body. Gurud understands that his only option in this scenario is to run and fend for his own life, because when she's down for the count, Giselda will definitely target him next. Despite his brain telling him to run, his defiant heart is still in the game. Despite being afraid, he clings to his sword, this time completely infuriated by what's taking place before his eyes. The demon is about to finish her off for good. Just to make sure that she doesn't get up, he has her body stretched from two ends. This monster wants to rip her in half. The demon uses his magic, pulling her body apart. In a final-ditch effort, she prepares her weapon and aims at the demon's face, attempting to go for the kill. However, despite her abrupt attack, her weapon is caught. It seems like it's all over, until Giselda's body feels a sudden approaching presence with suppressed magic. The man who has struck him once more is the warrior Gurud, who he thinks has done an incredible job by getting the better of his defenses. The dragon hunter demands Giselda free her, and proceeds to engage blows with him. The demon doesn't even bother reacting to any of his attacks, while Gurud is out here whipping the best of his sword skills, hoping for an attack to land. Giselda is underwhelmed because he isn't really receiving any remarkable damage, which makes him wonder if his previous impression of the warrior was false. Gurud no longer cares about appearances and lowers his blade with full force, aiming to cut him down no matter what. Unfortunately for him, simple bravery won't be enough to beat this villain. Giselda defects Gurud's blade with a weapon of his own, now leaving him completely defenseless. Gurud knows he's got no chance now. He's already accepted his fate as the blade strikes his body, piercing him. The man has accepted this moment to be his last, and apologizes for being unable to save his disciple Tiltu. Suddenly, Tiltu comes flying out of nowhere, to attack the demon right when he's busy dealing with Gurud. She forms a magical crest, pinning him down right where she wanted. Being grateful to Gurud's critical contribution to the fight, Tiltu silently acknowledges him as her father. Activating a water sword technique of 6 colors, the Dragon Slayer princess freezes the demon's body. She instructs Gurud to stay right where he is. Then we see the effects of the technique. Multiple copies of Tiltu approach their target from every angle, slicing and cutting him down with 100 slashes. Acknowledging the fact that this demon possesses a regenerative magical body, she's taken measures to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. We see this when Giselda's arm freezes and shatters into 1,000 pieces. More and more of these brutal slashes follow with the Dragon Slayer princess's ruthless final attack. By the end of her final slash, Tiltu has Giselda completely frozen in a similar manner like he was before. This time, she didn't leave things halfway, and decided to slice his frozen body into 1,000,000 frozen pieces. The demon's body is reduced to particles of ice, and it appears that he's finally defeated for good. The fight is over, but Tiltu's condition is critical. She collapses the next second, only for Gurud to catch her. His eyes water with tears, which makes it seem like he was worried. But what's really funny is that this guy is just happy she managed to subdue the threat and save both of their asses. Tiltu is a little annoyed and immediately points her weapon at the dumbass for saying something like that. Meanwhile, Latia is impressed by Tiltu's skills, which match her reputation completely. Gurud praises the stone dragon for her competent contribution in the fight. With the demon defeated, they want to know where Norn is, but Gurud thinks it's all fine since nothing could keep Norn down for long. As they're basking in the glory of their victory, a terrifying spirit appears. The ground rumbles as all three of them wonder what's going on. Their eyes darted towards the corpse of the true dragon Midgard's armor. Its body is being enveloped in dark energy, prompting them to wonder what's going on. If you guys thought Giselda was a problem, then I've got some bad news. Turns out the demon somehow survived and absorbed the body of the true dragon to complete its regeneration. It was the only way possible for him to resurrect in the state Tiltu's attack left him. You can just see it on their faces how all three of them are like, just die already. Anyway, having absorbed the powers of the true dragon, Giselda now bears a demonic dragon's appearance and playfully asks how they're going to escape death now. The demon has grown so powerful, in fact, that his strength is comparable to the Demon King itself. Latia is trying her best to heal Tiltu with whatever time they have. While injured, Tiltu is still not backing down from the fight. Giselda tries to prepare an attack, but he's yet to learn about his new abilities. So what this guy does is fire an enormously powerful dragon breath, terrifying the group with his latest powers. That same dragon breath bulldozed an opening outside the dungeon. We can see the massive crater left behind as Giselda finds himself pleased with the new ability. Now that he's ready to take them down, the evolved demon unleashes magical thorns with his dark magic. With one swipe, he's able to devour two of them with a single attack, injuring Latia and Garud. The demon finds himself satisfied having learned the magical abilities of the dragon paired with his own. Meanwhile, Tiltu carves out an opening and attempts to bring him down with a piercing lightning sword strike. Unfortunately, she has greatly underestimated her opponent here, because her attack is effortlessly blocked thanks to the defensive dragon scales. Giselda forces a counterattack, and praises Tiltu's fighting ability once more for exceeding his expectations. He catches her with his dark magic, and believes that she's a suitable candidate to offer to his master. Garud tries to get up with whatever strength he has left, while Giselda has Tiltu rendered immobile with his powers. The monster offers her the chance to save her life. All she has to do is become consumed by the dark magic. Tiltu's condition is pitiful, and she's unable to whisper even a word. With her flailing arm, she forces an icicle strike at the demon's belly. While it didn't do any damage against his skin, it was her way of saying fuck you in the most straightforward way possible. Giselda is provoked and prepares a beam strike to annihilate her to ashes. The beatdown Garud begs the demon to stop. He powers up his attack, while Tiltu is just bracing for impact. Despite Garud begging him to stop, the demon charges up the beam, and as he is seconds away from releasing it, an attack from above slices both his arms off, freeing Tiltu from his grasp. Giselda sees the broken Excalibur plunged into the ground. He doesn't get what happened or who could have unleashed a strike from the crater he left. Suddenly, his eyes glance towards Norn, who has already made his appearance on the battlefield. This kid is pissed. He releases a heavy palm strike and shifts the demon's trajectory of the beam. Giselda releases his charged dragon breath upwards just like before, and his attack goes wasted. He tries to catch Norn off guard by releasing a smaller and less powerful beam strike. However, the boy is more than capable enough to deflect his attack. Norn uses the best use of his supernatural physical abilities to overwhelm the evolved demon. Giselda is eating one attack after the other. Norn finally obliterates him into the ground with a powerful punch, causing him mountains of roaring pain. Seeing Tiltu's near-fatal condition, the boy grows furious. He collects Excalibur and demands the demon to stand up. The fight isn't over, and Norn isn't merciful to let his agony end just yet.